Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy show, and today we have Heath Ledger on the podcast. I'm just teasing. He's probably heard this joke too many times, but I've only met one Heath. This is Heath Treasure. And that was what my mind thought of when I first heard his name. I was like, it's got to be that. And then his last name kind of rhymes with it as well, which is even funnier. And he's from Idaho.
Couldn't have picked it out better myself.
Yeah, he's from Idaho, and I grew up in Idaho. And I grew up in the Treasure Valley, so maybe I grew up in his family's valley. I don't know. But it is kind of interesting. So I'm going to ask questions about that. But just so you get to know Heath a little bit, I'm going to do a small introduction. He's going to do a much better one. But he is what he calls the blue-collar millionaire, a serial entrepreneur on a mission to help blue-collar businesses and owners buy, build, and scale and sell their businesses for profitable exit, which if you have ever been in the blue-collar space and you've thought, I want to sell my company, but you didn't build it to sell it, then you find out you have another 2 or 3 years to structure things properly to sell. If you want top dollar, if you just want to walk away from it, you can walk away from businesses all the time. But if you want to get some money, then you got to build it to sell. So I'm excited to hear and have this conversation. Heath, go ahead and tell us more about yourself, where you actually grew up, what part of town, and how'd you get to where you are now?
Great. Well, that's a good intro. Thanks for the intro. You nailed it on just about everything. I've been Heath Treasure's my name. I grew up on the west side of the railroad tracks, not really, but really, in a small town, a rural town in Idaho. And
what town? What town was it, Heath?
Rigby, Idaho.
Rigby, Idaho. That's the cold part.
To Rigby, Idaho. The Rigby Trojans. Woo!
Woo! That's the cold part of Idaho. It's
a very cold part of Idaho. That's for sure. Probably, I don't know if I really was. I need to do some research and see if I was, but if I wasn't, I probably should have been voted the most likely to not succeed out of my small little high school. I was more focused on having a good time and screwing off and chasing girls when I was in high school than anything else. But the one thing that is similar, the high school Heath, similar to the Heath now is that I always was on the go all the time. I've never sat around, never sat still. That's why school was not ideal for me. Went to college at Boise State University, dropped out of Boise State University. And since then, I've been rich. I've been broke. I've been rich again. I've bought several multi-million-dollar businesses. I've built businesses. I've sold businesses, hired people, fired people, you name it. I've pretty much been down the ultimate blue-collar journey. And a couple of years ago, I had the mother sale, the sale of all sales, when I sold my biggest portfolio company to a Red Bull owned company, and really took advantage of a perfect opportunity to have a perfectly timed exit out of the organization that I started as a truck driver, grew that business up to be a multi-million-dollar organization, and then ultimately sold it to the Red Bull boys. And so where I'm at today is sticking my hand out. I really want to help teach anyone that wants to learn from mostly my failures, but maybe a little bit of my successes. And I want to help others be proactive in building business, scaling business, and and preparing their business to be exit ready, and primarily in the blue collar space. That's where I typically spend most of my time, is in that blue collar space. So that gives you a little bit of background on me. When I was a boy, like I said, couldn't sit still very long, was always interested in making money. Not necessarily for what it could buy me. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't always have that in mind a little bit, but I learned at an early age what kind of freedom money gives you, and the ability to choose whatever you want off the damn dinner menu when you go to a restaurant was very important to me, or to not have to look at the price of tennis shoes when I go into the store to buy a new tennis shoes. That's what I dreamed of, and that's what I aspired to achieve. And so that's where we're at now. And I want everybody to achieve whatever goal that they have as well. Throughout my years, as challenges and obstacles have come about, I've looked at them straight in the eyes and conquered them. I have a fear of heights. Most people don't know that about me. I don't even like to hang Christmas lights, but for many reasons, and my fear of heights is one of them, I decided to want to be a pilot. So I learned how to fly airplanes, learned how to fly helicopters, have owned multiple different airplanes, my own jet, flown my own jet, my own helicopter, you name it. But I'm all about looking at your fears and your dreams together and conquer them all in one lifetime.
Awesome. Well, man, I've got a load of questions here. We're going to go back to kind of the beginning. In Rigby, Idaho, when you were growing up, how big was your school? How big was your high school graduating class?
If there's anybody from Rigby watching this, they'll probably correct me, but I want to say there was 300 graduates the year that I graduated. And I definitely wasn't top of my class, but it was a great school. It was big enough. We were 5A. If anybody knows what 5A is, we're 5A, and pretty good sized school with just the right amount of cute girl options for Heath Treasure.
There you go. That's good. I would still say that Rigby's relatively small, especially when you're looking across America and general population. Maybe 20,000 people there in Rigby when you were growing up?
Yeah, 25,000 people in the town and the surrounding county.
Yeah, the county. So what would you say were some of the benefits of growing up in a smaller town where everybody knew each other's business, everybody could be involved in community activities? What did that kind of start to life teach you as you were building companies?
Well, look, it doesn't matter if your community is 500 people or 30,000 people or 100,000 people. There's always going to be mentors within that community as you grow up. And the smaller the community, the more intimate you are with those mentors. So there were my buddies' dads who were very successful in business, who become mentors of mine, or at least somebody that my eyes were on as I was growing up. And so there was that in that local community. But there was also the aspect in that little community of, if you screw up, there's every eye in that community knows you, knows your family's name, your family's last name, and it's not going unnoticed. You screw up in Phoenix, Arizona, you can get by without being noticed probably a whole lot easier. I think that was a good thing, knowing that people's eyes were on you. And not only that, these cute girls that I went to high school with, God bless Rigby Trojans and the gals that were there, their parents were watching me, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I'm sure I wasn't always the best example of who they would want to be dating their daughters, but it is something that's in your mind when you're growing up in a small community like that.
Yeah, I grew up in Parma, which is on the other side of the state. Another real super small. That one's like 2,000 people, so even smaller. But there's something to be said about growing up with an understanding that your actions have bigger implications than just you,
Yeah.
right? That you aren't an island, but it does reflect not just on you, but it then reflects on your family, it reflects on your community, it reflects on like what if something happens with somebody from Parma, then yeah, you got Homedale, Ontario, Oregon, Nissa, Oregon. You got all these Fruitland, got all these other towns. It's like, hey, that person's from Parma, and there was like almost like an identity of like I'm from Parma,
Yeah.
right?
One of my good friends grew up in Parma. Eric Johnson. Shout out to Eric Johnson. He's got a brother. I don't know if you know him or not, but grew up in Parma, and he still talks about his days of growing up in Parma. Really loved that tight knit community.
Yeah,
He grew up in there.
it's a great place, but I love the idea. Like I love what I got. Now I don't love living in small towns, frankly. As an adult, I like people, and so it's been something that I battle with sometimes. So I go raise my kids in a small town. One of the things that Heath had shared before this and is that one of his greatest accomplishments, if you can call it that, but roles in life is probably a better thing, is that he's a father of four kids. And you go through all this experiences in life and you hope that you can do it better for your kids, or at least give them, in a lot of ways, I think I grew up thinking I wanted to do it better for my kids. And now I just think, man, I hope I can live up to what I got. In the world, it's even hard to like duplicate and teach the same lessons that I got taught. I'm like, geez, I just hope they get half of what I got rather than doing it better. I think my parents did an awesome job.
Yeah.
How do I do it just half of that, And I would be thrilled if my kids get that. So how do you balance that? Like teaching your children those same lessons, maybe not in the same environment.
Well, I think the lessons that you teach your kids and the lessons I teach my kids and the lessons we learned as youth growing up are similar lessons taught in a different way, right? I was taught in a small town environment and I lived middle class. My kids, for the most part, other than my oldest son, my kids are growing up in a larger community in Gilbert, Arizona here. Similar lessons I try to teach them, but just in a different way. I grew up humble, middle class, and my kids fly on private airplanes. So the way of teaching them humility is different than the way I was taught humility, right? And I don't know what's right or wrong, and I don't know what's going to happen to my kids. I believe they're pretty good kids now, but I was taught to aspire, if you wanted more, and if you wanted more than that middle class, then you had to aspire and work hard. And I had aspirations because I would see what other people had in my community. And my kids are getting that lesson a different way. They're hopefully going to aspire because they seen what dad had. Right. So maybe it wasn't, the guy down the street, but maybe it was, wow, we really liked it when we could order Wagyu when we were going with dad, or we can get on dad's plane and ride with dad. And now we can't. And so it's teaching them hopefully that a lifestyle that they can achieve, if they work hard because they seen dad do it. Humility is always hard to teach. I don't know how you teach it. In reality, I think that the bumps and bruises that you personally take throughout your journey should teach you humility and will teach you humility. So everybody needs to fall to be able to find the humility that it's going to take to navigate life successfully. I believe in that.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to. That's what's interesting. Is like everybody's going to, and how much of it do you place your kids in that environment rather than they just are going to find the environment themselves? Because it is interesting that the concept of, I don't even want to say, I don't think that's really the word, but I think that you get used to a one way of being, and then when you are shifted out of that way of being. So if you're used to having money, you're used to living your life a certain way, and then you get shifted out of that, the hard work looks differently. I'm sure hard work for you right now. And when I say hard work, maybe you're out still crushing the blue collar, but maybe you're doing more coaching, mentoring, and your hard work now looks like mental hard work, being a CEO leader, rather than actually in the trenches of hard work. And the income based off of effort is different. You get paid more generally to be the leader than to be the worker. And that's not wrong. But then when having your kids go back and do that, how are you having them go and learn, hey, this is what built dad, right? Yeah, you're growing up with dad having his hard work looks like the mentorship side, but you also need to go earn your stripes and know what dad did to get to the point where he's now able to be the mentor for the income.
Well, every kid's pathway and their journey is different. You know, my oldest son, he made the dean's list at BYU. And he, as far as book work goes, he works hard, but it's fairly easy for him, you know. And so he's intending on applying to law school soon, and he'll make a great attorney. He's a good communicator. He's learned from his dad to communicate. He's learned to negotiate deals, and he'll make a great attorney. Yet I have another son that works hard, good communicator. Sitting in the classroom doing books is not his mojo. And so there's a good chance that he'll want to grind it out and learn the ways of, you know, financial growth and financial freedom without going to college. So every kid, just like every human, is different. And our jobs as a parent, in my eyes, is to support them and to support their journey until they start achieving the goals that they want to achieve individually. And, you know, as long as they're not out there, you know, we're not going to support them if they're out there selling drugs, but they need to set goals. They need to achieve their goals. And that could be college, could be the military, could be working hard in blue collar. I know that college education was not for me. I mean, I made a comment today that friends of mine that have an MBA and a college diploma, you can't see it because of my background, but they've got their college diploma hanging behind their desk in their office because they're super proud of it. I've got a picture of my Citation jet and my helicopter hanging behind my desk because I'm proud of it. And, you know, they achieved the diploma and I went a little different way. And their trophy was their diploma, and my trophy is not to have materialistic things necessarily, but to have things that make my life better, to be able to have the freedom that makes my life better.
Right. Yeah. It's about building a lifestyle that you wanted. And that's where I wanted to go ask another question here. How many siblings do you have? Like, what was your family makeup, and what was the example or some of the biggest lessons you learned from both your mom and from your dad?
Well, I have a half sister that I was raised with a good bit of the time, and I love her dearly. And she's a really great woman, really great mom. Shout out to Steph. But that's really all I have. And she was a little bit older than me, so as I got older, she was moved out of the house and gone. So a good bit of that time, I felt like an only kid. But the biggest lesson that I learned from my mom and dad is hard work. So let's talk about some big lessons. It's not just one, but hard work is always number one. Both of them got up in the morning, very rarely missed work, worked hard, and did what they had to do to provide for me as their son and for their family. Number two is my parents are the last ones to judge others. They taught me from a very, very young age that you don't know what demons or what wars are going on in those other people's minds. You don't know what battles they're fighting. And you should just really be a good human. You don't know their journey. And so from an early age, judging other people was just not something that we did very much in our family. And what I seen from my mom and dad, especially my mom, is she loved everyone. If there was someone in need, she helped them. She's really outgoing, by the way. So if you had a smile on your face and she was close by, the likelihood is that she's going to talk to you and be your friend, and you would remember her. And I've said that same thing to my kids. Listen, when we go on vacation and we're in the pool or we're on a shuttle bus with a bunch of people we don't know, choose someone that you're sitting by and make sure they remember you and you remember them. Give them something to remember you from, whether it's your smile or your good conversation. But the more people that you can impact positively will result in good vibes for you. And then there will be other people that impact you positively. Mm-hmm. So I learned that at a very young age from my parents.
Would you say that there's like I mean, you may not even be like consciously aware of it right now, or maybe you are, but like a phrase that they would say when, just like you said, well, you don't know what they're going through. Did they ever invite you to consider when you were wanting to be judged, say, hey, maybe it's just that, hey, think about what they might be going through. Think about what could be going. Did they ever invite you to ask that question? Or was it just like, nope, you don't judge because you don't know what they're going through? Or was there like a, hey, think about these other things that could be true?
I think my parents are pretty open-minded. If someone's willing to share, wants to share their challenges or what they're going through, my dad's the first guy that would sit down and have a beer with them. I grew up in a really LDS community. I married an LDS gal, and but my parents weren't LDS, but had a lot of LDS friends, and that's just because they're just good people. They never really judged people on their faith. But to answer your question specifically, is my dad was never going to meddle in your business, so he wouldn't judge you, but he wasn't going to, he wasn't going to be overbearing or overpowering, meddling into your business. My mom, on the other hand, she wants to be your friend and she wants to know your story. And I'd say I'm a little bit more on the side of my mom than I am my dad. And because of that, my mom and dad, primarily my mom, but my dad as well, have an infinite amount of good impressions and friends. I frequently run into people where they just say, we just love your mom and dad. And that's a good thing. And I'm happy to be walking and following in their footsteps in their little community.
Yeah, that's awesome. But funny little side story here. So my wife just showed me a picture earlier today. Going back to this whole concept of like, what type of environment are you building? What are you leaving behind when you're interacting with somebody? And sometimes we think that that's where our influence ends, is when we're actually interacting. But a lot of times our influence is beyond that. It's what people are witnessing that we don't know is happening. That what the people see when we don't think we're being watched, right? On my first date with my wife, we went to Temple Square, the orchestra on Temple Square, and we were watching this performance, and there was this couple right in front of us, and they were all over each other. Like, she was like sucking on his ear. It was just an interesting experience watching, just like, because this is our first date and they were past the first date, we'll say. But I'm sitting there with this girl who's now my wife, and I'm like, oh, look at that. One day we're going to be like that. And she's like, never am I ever going to let you be that, like, much PDA and blah, 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 blah. I was like, whatever. You'll like it with your husband when it's time, right? I can't say that she likes it now. I'm not going to sit here and say that. But the picture was us in our church meeting, and one of our friends was sitting like 2 or 3 rows behind us. And what am I doing? I'm like, got my arm around her, and we're both leaned in together, like our ears are touching, just like as close as we can be to each other. And apparently our friend snapped this picture and just like has been holding on to it. And then she just sent it today. I was like, hey, just wanted to let you know you're our couple goals or whatever. But that's not why I do it. I don't love my wife because I want people to see me loving my wife. I love her because like I just want to be close to her all the time. But it's those types of things. It's like, how are you being witnessed in your industry or in your family or in your community? And when people are taking pictures of your life, for lack of a better word, right? What are they witnessing?
Yeah, well, that's a really good question. And when people witness me and how I treat my mom and dad, they see love. I still tell them I love them as an adult frequently whenever I talk to them. I really value them. And they also see that. I tell my boys, my teenage boys and my adult boys, even in front of their friends and their girlfriends, how much I love them, and whether it embarrasses them or not. But it's something that's talked about frequently, and people are witnessing and people experience. But that's not something I'm going to be shy about. I'm
Right.
going to tell them they're my best friends. I'm going to tell them I love them. As far as my family goes, listen, I had a conversation with somebody earlier about this. So I'm not married, and my road to success was a little different journey than everyone else's. And it took me a long time, and people can learn from my failures. It took me a long time to recognize that what I was putting into my business wasn't what I was putting into my marriage. And, I talk about my financial success, which I'm proud of, and it merits my kids and myself a very good life. And let's face it, and my ex-wife, it merits her
Sure.
a very good life. I didn't have anything when we got married, so naturally, anything I built, she gets half of, and rightfully so. I don't have any problems with that. I want her to. She was there, and she supported me in a way that was very unique. But so I think that the best thing I can do is talk about the things not to do in a marriage. All right. And given another chance, which I hope I get one day, I hope that I can teach my kids that, whether it's in life, whether it's in marriage, whether it's in business, you can screw up and recover and fix it, right? I wouldn't recommend screwing up and trying to refix a marriage. That's not something I would recommend fixing it before it's too late. And but my kids see me treating my ex-wife as someone that I still care about. I go to her house and drop my kids off at her house. I roll her garbage cans up to the front of her house. I see she has a low tire. We fill her tire up, because at the end of the day, that's my kid's mom, and she was a major part of my life, and I care a lot about her. And I recognize that one of the key reasons of why we're no longer married is because my ability, or my lack of ability, to focus and give her the same amount of attention that I was giving my financial growth. So you can learn a lot of things from my wins. You can learn a lot of things from my wins, but in this particular case, you need to learn from my losses. But anyways, my kids recognize how I treat their mom, who's my ex-wife. Never yell at her in front of my kids. Never yell at her, period. Just don't. We're friends. We respect each other. And that's how they need to respect their wife and their women and people in their life. We care about each other, and we're friends with each other. And so, look, there's lessons all over, and my kids are watching. They see me treat their mom with the utmost respect. I'm going to just finish by saying I have a difficult time wrapping my head around when people get divorced and go into this war zone environment with their ex-wife.
I agree.
That is the lowest, low IQ, low, no heart, no anything pathway. And I try not to judge anyone, but I'm a believer that, that's not necessary, especially if you have kids, right? There are ways to navigate through life's challenges without belonging to a war zone. right? And it starts, and then some of my friends might say, yeah, well, you've never met my ex-wife, right? And I want to say, no, don't get me into this conversation. I'm not going to judge you. But what I will say is I've never met your ex-wife, but it all starts with you. It all starts with how you treat her. It all starts with how much respect you give her. And you need to fight that war with kindness and with love. And if you do that, then your ex-wife probably won't be the animal that you think she is, right? Anyways, I don't know how we got on that.
No,
So I believe my kids are watching.
For me, Heath, this is like some of the things that I'm most passionate about. Travis keeps saying, you got to talk to Heath because you guys are going to get along so great. And it's probably because of this type of stuff. My experience with my wife has been, I cannot say anything short of magical. Like, it's been amazing. And I'm still an idiot sometimes and still put my foot in my mouth and do dumb things that she, and in other relationships may never be forgiven in some places. But something that for me, we kind of started our relationship off with, and I had done a lot of pre-work before I ever even really started dating, a lot of relationships, read lots of books about divorce, affairs, like everything to understand it. I used to watch chick flicks as a child. I say a child, like young man. And other people would judge me. They're like, why are you watching chick flicks? It's so dumb. Why do you want to go see that? I'm like, look, you're the dumb one, because this is what these people, these women, they're being programmed to expect these fairy tale things. And if you don't know your boundaries and how to explain to that person what you are going to be and what you're not going to be from their frame of reference, then you are going to have people marrying you, being in a relationship with you, expecting something because it's what they saw on TV that's not ever going to be reality. Like, you're the one who didn't do your market research, not me. And good job with your relationship, buddy. Like, that's my opinion. So that started at a very young age, like seeing this happen. But I think it's fascinating, and I'm curious. There's often, and you said it one way, but I want you to go deeper if you're willing to. There's this vein, I would say, of, well, there's two sides of it. Two sides. Let's separate them, and then we'll talk about them both. One side is that if you just sacrifice 3 or 4 or 5 years or 10 years or whatever right now to get to this level of success, then you can live like nobody's ever lived before. And, this is like preached, not just a little bit, not passively, but like actively in a lot of these high success circles and a lot of these masterminds, a lot of these things where it's like, oh, just sacrifice right now, work like a dog for a few years. And I believe that to reach like ultra success, I think there's a level of, you got to be willing to work hard. Like, there's no way you're getting to that point without some serious sacrifice. And I get that. My question is, when you're raising a family, I studied neuropsychology in college. So this is where my information comes from. Children generally determine their identities almost completely before age of 8. Some will reach into age 12, but that child's basically decided who they're going to be by the time they're 8 to 10 years old. The rest of their life is looking for evidence to support their decision of that identity. So if you are raising a family, you don't have 8 years to go crush it. You have 8 years to be the best freaking father or leader as you can to your family, and then you can go get your success. That's my opinion. And some people say, well, you can have it all. I know only a few people who made it to the tops of success and didn't get divorced. Almost everybody, it doesn't work out for. So the question is, going back, you now have your success and you have the result in your marriage. And although you're still treating your marriage well, or the form of marriage and being respectful there, what would you have changed or done differently, hindsight? And how much do you think that would have impacted your success, or would have just been more intentional on the journey to success?
Well, listen, I'm the first one to tell you that I don't believe in work-life balance. If you're trying to become successful, you need to take work-life balance and crumble it up and throw it out the son of a bitch in window. But let me ask you let me follow that up with a question.
Sure.
What is work-life balance, right? Work-life balance to me means a lot more things than your wife and your kids. It means soccer games. It means you going to to watch the professional sports team play. It means you going to poker night with your buddy. It means you going to boating, with your buddy. It means you golfing with your buddy. What my point is you're going to have sacrifice if you want to be successful. And here's where we circle back to our conversation. Okay. Work-life balance means a whole bunch of things besides including your family. If I had to do it all over again, I'd tell you again, I won't become a multimillionaire without sacrificing work-life balance. However, the non-negotiable should be your family. So, right? And that's what I would do all over again. Is I think that at the time, I was sacrificing work-life balance, and that included my family that I was sacrificing. But if I look back at it again, there were a number of other things that I could have sacrificed, right? And that's my key point is if you want to go to the car show, you want to go to the baseball game, you want to go to the do all these things with your buddies or your family reunion or whatever else. My point is give up on work-life balance. You're going to have to make sacrifices, but a sacrifice that you should try not to make. And your family will be impacted by your commitment to your journey, right? They will be. But the number one thing that I would do different is I would take the family sacrifices right out of the equation, right? Now, does that mean I need to take them on a vacation every week? No. But my family seen very little of me, especially my ex-wife. And then when they did see me, I was so brain dead from work that I didn't have the ability to show her that she cared as much to me as my businesses mattered to me. And same with my kids. So I'm saying work-life balance is stupid if you're planning on getting successful, but you got to decide what you're going to X out. I wouldn't recommend Xing out your wife and your kids.
Okay. I love that. So I'm going to try and synthesize that to two things. And then you tell me, hey, does that hit it on the spot or do you want to add more? But I think one thing is priority management. People don't actually prioritize, or they think that certain activities, going golfing with their friends, they say, this is actually work. This is actually me building relationships so we can get farther in our business. It's like, no, it's not. You're saying that activity, the relationship building, could have been done with a phone call. It could have been done with a few text messages. The rest of it's fun, and understand that it's fun. But the truth is you chose to go do something. So priority management. And then with that priority management, like you said, your family's going to be impacted. I think I don't believe in work-life balance either, but I think it's going to be impacted. So when it is impacted, how good is the communication about not just what that sacrifice is? In the book, Think and Grow Rich, they say, decide your goal and then write down what you're willing to exchange for that goal, right? Is it a Heath exchanging that, or is it the family exchanging that? And does a family feel involved in the exchange? So something that just literally, this is probably 3 months in, right? I've spent over the last, 7-8 years, over $150,000 learning, being mentored, mentors, trainers, whatever, how to put on an event, organize an event, get people to an event, be a great speaker at an event. Like, I've learned and invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into this skill set. And the truth is, the more I learn about it, the more I think I would rather just do it myself. I would rather be part of somebody else's business rather than be part of my own. Are you frozen a little bit, Heath, there?
There you are. We froze up for just a second.
Okay, there we go. So I was just saying, I would rather be somebody else's second fiddle in an event space than being the person who puts it on. And for the last 8 years, that's kind of how my mind has been working. It's a lot of stress, it's extra anxiety. But then about 4 months ago, I was thinking, man, when does my family get the ROI? When does my wife and my kids get the ROI on that hundreds of thousands of dollars of investment in becoming something? and learning something. And that's when I went back and said, okay, we're going to renegotiate. We're going to recommunicate to my kids. I'm going to start talking about what's happening and saying, hey, we as a family are helping this. We as a family are doing this. Yes, dad's the one out on the front lines, you could say, working, but you being a good brother is part of this sacrifice, part of the journey. Involving my wife in way more events and getting her, making sure that she has time by herself in the office to do the things she's passionate about. So reprioritizing and then better communicating what those sacrifices are, what can I be held accountable to or be accountable for, and what is expected out of the family, and then how are we going to celebrate the win together when we get to the different stages that we're fighting for. And so anyways, anything you would add there as far as like ways that you can still reach success and involve your family and not have to have the family be part of that sacrifice, but be part of that journey?
Well, at the beginning of the podcast, we talked about questions. And, it really comes down to questions. And, when work-life balance was not even a subject in my life as I was working towards creating financial stability and financial wealth, was I asking the question, is this event or is this thing that I'm going to absolutely necessary, and is it necessary at the expense of my marriage and my kids? And it isn't typically one particular event that starts working on your relationship. It's a series of bad decisions, right? Mm-hmm. And you get so focused on the growth of your organization, the growth of your financial wealth, that you make a series of bad decisions that are sacrificing your kids. So the number one recommendation, your kids and your wife, and in my case, my ex-wife. And, I can say to that is love your wife or someone else will. And, and that goes both ways. Your wife needs to love her husband or someone else will. And love your kids and raise them. That's a responsibility you have, or somebody else will, right? So if you want them to be successful and follow your journey and your teachings, you need to be the one teaching them, right? And, the question is, are you willing to chance that your marriage is going to survive and chance that your kids are going to be good kids? Or do you want to have less of that being a chance and more of it being a sure thing? And I think that you can have more of it being a sure thing while you're growing your success by just asking, am I giving up this or am I giving up my family? Now, listen, I'm no expert, and there's always a lot of growth that I try to do both personally and with my family. The one thing that my kids know is, and they didn't always, my older kids, my older kids I don't have as good of a relationship with as my younger kids because I was an asshole. They weren't priority to me, just like their mom wasn't priority to me. And, I've got a second chance with my other kids, and I got to keep working on my older kids. They're my kids for the rest of my life.
You haven't written that off. It's just,
I've got to keep showing them that I know I didn't show you that I loved you. I know I never told you that I loved you. I know I never showed you interest, right? But I am now. And, I'm willing to put in extra effort now. But the big question is what are you sacrificing? Work-life balance will never happen if you're working on growing your business. But there's also a lot of things that you can sacrifice and give up on. I question yourself. I should have done a better job questioning myself on what I was sacrificing then that I'm not so much willing to sacrifice now. But look, at the end of the day, my kids know they're loved, they're well taken care of, their mom's well taken care of. My success was her success. And then, what impacts does divorce have on your financial situation? You can fight your ex-wife in court all you want, right? Go ahead.
Broke.
Do it all you want. But is that teaching anything good to your kids, right? So if you're a man, in my opinion, and I try not to judge other people, but you should just admit that if you had nothing when you married her, it's half hers. However you slice it, it's half hers. So that is impactful if you're a multimillionaire. And if you think about it, if I could have figured a way to juggle it better and give her the attention, my net worth wouldn't have been shaved in half. Now, luckily, I'm pretty fortunate. Cut mine in half, I'm still a pretty comfortable human being, right?
Right.
But, think about it this way. What I'm worth today is cut in half because of my ex-wife. So if I would have set my goals maybe just a little lower on financial aspects and didn't earn what I earned, but also acknowledged I'm not going to have to split it either if I would have just made a little less and worked harder on her. So key point is here, can you work a little less and work harder on your marriage, right? Now, listen, I don't know. My marriage could have been doomed regardless either way.
Nobody knows.
I like to think that as a businessman and a problem solver, I like to think that I can usually solve all problems. But the key is you can't start solving the problem of marriage too late because it's a slippery slope. You didn't give her the attention. She didn't give you the attention. Now all of a sudden she resents you. You resent her. And sometimes it goes so far deep that it's difficult to recover. So that's the only recommendation I could make to an aspiring businessman is no work-life balance, but don't sacrifice your marriage and your kid.
And especially in a blue collar scenario where you might be called on at any hour, like a type of on-call scenario. So that's one side of the conversation. We're going to try and cover this next part because I want to hear from you just because these are my kind of qualms in the industry, and I don't know the right scenario, but I know what I've chosen. I've chosen kind of what you said. Like my relationship with my wife is more important than business success or anything else. And I'm going to wait for that. And part of it was I had a lot of development. I moved out when I was 14 years old and basically took care of myself. A lot of that, paid rent, whatever. But my wife, she basically lived at home till I met her. And so there's just a difference in like life experience, how money works, all that stuff, emotional development. And so one of the commitments that I made was, look, I'm not going to personally develop myself past where we can still communicate. And so for like the last 3 or 4 years, that's meant that in a lot of ways, I've kind of halted aspects of, not all personal development, but I've halted aspects of my personal development, allowing her to kind of catch up so we can be on the same plane and move forward. Now she's grown, made the journey that took me like 12 years, she's made it in like 6 years. So that's a win, right? I think she's moving fast. She's probably just smarter, picks up things quicker than I did, but have to learn.
100% she's smarter. Women are made, hands down. I don't know why they're made twice as smart as us.
Yeah. We got to suffer a little bit more, but what's really fascinating is what I see a lot in this industry of mentorship. And the reason I'm asking you this, because you're a mentor, you're coaching people on how to build businesses, how to get their businesses in the right spot. And as much as we talk about business and structuring and everything, your business properly, every business owner knows that the family is the second half of that business. And if things are really good at the business, but not good at home, it's really hard to be successful, and vice versa. Right. So it's important that we address this, I believe, from a perspective of Heath's a mentor. He's teaching people how this works. There's a, again, I just call it a cancer because I don't like it. And I think it's going the wrong direction. I call it hedonism, where people are choosing to progress themselves and their own personal development, their own expansion of their mind, their own whatever. And then they say, look, one way or the other, I'm going to go because I've got to, it's like my duty to God for me to develop myself, regardless of whether you want to come with me. It's my duty to be myself. And if I'm doing my best self, then you should be happy for me. It happens on both sides of the equation, male and female, doesn't matter. But one person says, well, I'm just going to grow. And then they outgrow their relationship. I actually believe they outgrow their relationship. It's fine. They do progress personally, but they leave their family behind. Like literally, they leave their family behind, and then it can't be reconciled. And so I'm curious, like in that scenario, say I'm being mentored by you, and I'm thinking about excelling in my personal development at the expense of my relationship, because I think it's like this call, I have to do it, what's the counsel there? If I feel like I have to develop myself, do you say you should change what you have to do? Or do you say
yeah, that's interesting. And I don't know what the best answer is to that question, but I can tell you about a conversation that I had the other day. And it's a really interesting thought, but it gets much harder to achieve success in anything as an adult when you're alone, right? And, I don't know what kind of guy you are, but there are so many if you were single, let's just say that, and I don't care what, could be a guy that doesn't drink, could be this. No matter what you are, if you're a single guy, 20s, 30s, trying to succeed in personal development or trying to succeed in business or coaching or whatever it is, without a doubt, I'm experiencing it now. So I said, hopefully people will learn from me, from my failures and maybe from a few of my successes, but mostly my failures. Without a doubt, the distractions and the bullets that are coming at you as a solo person, as a person that's trying to achieve something, are so infinite you can't even count them. But when you're in unison with somebody and you can get on the same page and you can self-grow together and you can grow your businesses and you self-grow your coaching business or whatever self-growth you're working on, it's a shield that shields off so many distractions. So let me tell you something. I'm pretty damn comfortable, I believe. I'm, whatever it is, call me in the 1% or whatever. Without a doubt, I couldn't have done that in the condition that I'm in now as a single guy. There's too many distractions. And these distractions might fill your bucket for like a night, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're like a really, what happens when you pull a really hot ambering coal out of the fire? If your hands are cold, it warms your hands up, right? But the ambers go out really fast. So you might get the fulfillment of having this beautiful woman on your side, right? For one night at a time, or friends that want to go out and have fun and party, or, if you don't party, going out to the church event, right? These are all distractions that will stand in your way of achieving any kind of success that you're looking to achieve in your life. I believe that without a shadow of a doubt, because I'm experiencing it right as we speak. I wake up in the mornings and I'm like, shit, I really needed to comb through those financials last night. But now, when am I going to do it? Because I went out, I got distracted by a date or a buddy or whatever. So you're like, I'll do it the next night. Next night, somebody shows up at your house and you're like, crap. And so regardless of what the scenario is, when you're with someone, it's a shield to life's distractions, and your success on your journey will happen twice as fast as if you're going at it alone. I truly believe in that. I have to work twice as hard to shield off my distractions. I really do. And I don't do a very good job of it all the time.
I think that's huge. And we have to end it there with time, but I think that's key is there's a song. This is my favorite song. I got off my mission, and this was, I'm LDS, I served mission. I got off my mission. This was my homecoming talk, or one of them, because the song came out before my mission, but from Justin Bieber and Chance the Rapper. And when I was listening to it, when I got home, I was like, dude, that is exactly how this is. So there's in the rap portion, I don't know the actual name of the song, but there's the rap from Chance the Rapper. He says that they say the grass is always greener on the other side, but that's not true. It's greener where you water it. I'd rather stay here and work on things with you than go ahead and start with someone new. Probably missed a few words, but
great lyrics.
It's like, it's so true. You think life is going to be better. You think your personal development is going to be better. You think you're going to be happier with somebody who's on your side ever. But the truth is, I believe you're happier working things out with the person that you've already committed to than, I mean, I think what you said earlier is also true, that it may get to the point where that's just not really a possibility. And that's an unfortunate thing. But if there's even an ounce of a possibility, I would be fighting for that to be the reality. And then if there's literally nothing that can be done, then sure. But if there's an ounce of possibility, you'll go farther with it than without it, with your relationship.
Great closing statement. Let me say one thing, and
sure.
This short thing is that, I might get a lot of hate for this, whoever, well, I don't know how many people's watching, or if they might, but God did not intend for you to travel this journey here on earth alone. Take it for whatever it's worth. I believe in that. And you're not intended to travel this journey alone. Your kids aren't, you're not, your wife's not. And, if I can leave everybody with that, that's the one thing that I would like to leave them with.
Awesome. If they wanted to reach out to you and get mentorship, get coaching, maybe they're in a blue collar electrician, plumber, or whatever, and they're trying to build this business and build it big, but build it right, where would they get a hold of you?
Best way to find me is The Heath Treasure. Follow me, message me on The Heath Treasure. I'm on TikTok as well under Heath Treasure, and on YouTube as well under Heath Treasure. But give us a follow, shoot out messages on those platforms, and we'll always get back to you.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Heath.
Good conversation.
Yep. Catch you guys next time on the Fuel Your Legacy show. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me. And if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.